In the bustling heart of Ibadan, where the old ways of Yoruba tradition mingle with the pulse of modern life, lived a young woman named Adejoke. She was the pride of her family, a beacon of hope in a world where tradition held sway over every aspect of life. From the time she was a little girl, Adejoke was known for her beauty, grace, and intelligence. Her parents, especially her mother, Iya Alaye, looked upon her with immense pride, believing that she would one day bring great honor to the family. As Adejoke grew, so did the expectations placed upon her. In the eyes of her community, her worth would be measured not just by her accomplishments, but by the husband she would eventually marry. This was the path laid out for her by tradition, a path her mother was eager to see her follow. But Adejoke had dreams of her own. She longed to break free from the confines of tradition and pursue her education. She dreamed of becoming a lawyer, to fight for justice, and be a voice for the voiceless. Yet she knew that convincing her family to allow her to follow this path would not be easy. Adejoke's story begins at a pivotal moment in her life. She had just graduated from secondary school with top honors, and while her father, Baba Adewale, was proud of her achievements, her mother was more concerned with finding her a suitable husband. Iya Alaje had already begun arranging meetings with eligible young men from prominent families, eager to see her daughter settled into a respectable marriage. One evening, after yet another meeting with a potential suitor, Adejoke sat down with her mother in the living room of their modest but well-kept home. The air was thick with unspoken tension, as mother and daughter were about to have a conversation that would set the course of Adejoke's future. Iya Alaje's voice was gentle but firm as she spoke. "Adejoke, my daughter, you are of age now. It is time to start thinking about your future. A good husband will secure that future for you, and it is my duty to ensure that you marry well." Adejoke looked into her mother's eyes, her heart heavy with the weight of her dreams and the expectations placed upon her. She knew that her mother meant well, but she also knew that marriage was not what she wanted, at least not yet. Adejoke's voice trembled slightly as she responded, "Mama, I understand what you want from me, but I want to go to university. I want to study law and make a difference in people's lives. Marriage can wait." Iya Alaje's expression hardened. Her voice, though still calm, carried the weight of generations of tradition. She replied, "And what good is education if you do not have a husband? A woman's place is with her family, Adejoke. Education is important, yes, but it should complement your role as a wife and mother, not replace it." Adejoke felt a lump in her throat. She respected her mother's wisdom, but she could not ignore the fire burning inside her, the desire to carve out her own path. With a deep breath, she said, "Mama, I promise you, I will not forget my responsibilities. But please, let me pursue my dreams. I want to make you proud in my own way." The conversation ended in an uneasy silence, with neither mother nor daughter willing to concede. It was clear that the road ahead would not be easy, but Adejoke was determined to follow her heart, even if it meant going against the traditions that had shaped her upbringing. Despite the tension at home, Adejoke's determination paid off. She received a scholarship to study at the University of Ibadan, and with her father's reluctant blessing, she began her journey into higher education. It was at university that Adejoke truly began to thrive. She was surrounded by like-minded individuals who shared her passion for justice and equality. It was also where she met Segun, a charismatic young man whose intelligence and ambition matched her own. Segun was different from the men Adejoke had known back home. He treated her as an equal, valuing her opinions and encouraging her to pursue her dreams. They quickly became close, bonding over late-night study sessions and debates about social justice. As their friendship grew, so did their feelings for each other. Segun was captivated by Adejoke's beauty and intellect, and Adejoke found herself drawn to Segun's charm and determination. But their love was not without obstacles. Segun came from a less traditional family, and while he respected Adejoke's values, he didn't share the same reverence for the customs that had shaped her upbringing. This difference in perspective became a source of tension between them. One evening, as they walked through the university campus hand in hand, Segun brought up a topic that had been weighing on his mind. He said, his voice tinged with frustration, "Adejoke, you know I care for you deeply, but I've been thinking, do we really need to follow all these traditions? Can't we just be together without worrying about what our families think?" Adejoke paused, feeling a knot form in her stomach. She loved Segun, but she couldn't ignore the values that had been instilled in her since birth. Her voice was gentle but firm as she replied, "Segun, I love you, but my family's approval is important to me. I can't just abandon everything I've been taught. We need to find a way to balance our love with our responsibilities." Segun sighed, understanding her point but frustrated by the constraints of tradition. He replied, "I know, Adejoke, but sometimes it feels like we're living for everyone else but ourselves. I just want to be with you, without all these expectations." Their conversation ended in a tense silence, both of them struggling to reconcile their love with the realities of their cultural expectations. This was the beginning of a series of conflicts that would test their relationship in ways neither of them had anticipated. As time passed, Adejoke and Segun's relationship became increasingly strained. The pressure from her family to settle down and marry grew stronger, while Segun's impatience with traditional expectations became more apparent. The once passionate and harmonious relationship began to crumble under the weight of conflicting desires. One fateful evening, after a heated argument about their future, Segun made a decision that would change everything. He told Adejoke that he wasn't ready to commit to the life her family expected. He needed time to figure things out, to decide if he could live with the traditions that were so important to her. His voice was firm, but filled with regret as he said, "Adejoke, I need time. I need to think about what I really want. I love you, but I can't promise you the life your family wants for you. Not yet." Adejoke was devastated. She had invested so much of herself into their relationship, and now it was falling apart. She felt torn between her love for Segun and her duty to her family. Her voice shook as she replied, "Segun, I don't know what to say. I love you, but I can't wait forever. I need to know where we stand." But Segun's mind was made up. He needed space, and he wasn't sure when or if he would be ready to fully commit to the life Adejoke's family expected of him. They parted ways that night, both of them heartbroken and unsure of the future. In the weeks that followed, Adejoke tried to move on, but her heart remained with Segun. She threw herself into her studies, hoping to distract herself from the pain of their breakup. But just as she was beginning to find her footing again, she received news that shattered her world. Segun had been seen with another woman, someone he had met after their breakup. The news spread like wildfire through the university, and it wasn't long before it reached Adejoke. She felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and deep sadness. How could Segun move on so quickly? Had their love meant nothing to him? Determined to confront him, Adejoke sought Segun out. When she found him, her emotions spilled over. Her voice was filled with hurt as she demanded, "How could you do this, Segun? How could you move on so quickly, after everything we had?" Segun, caught off guard, tried to explain himself. His voice was filled with guilt as he said, "Adejoke, I didn't mean to hurt you. I was confused, and I needed someone to talk to. It just happened." But his words only deepened Adejoke's pain. Her voice was trembling as she replied, "You said you needed time, but you didn't even give us a chance. I thought you loved me." Segun looked away, unable to meet her gaze. He whispered, I did love you, Adejoke, but I couldn't handle the pressure. I'm sorry. Adejoke walked away, her heart in pieces. The man she had loved and trusted had betrayed her, leaving her to pick up the shattered remains of their relationship. The aftermath of Segun's betrayal left Adejoke reeling. She felt lost, abandoned, and utterly alone. Her once bright future now seemed uncertain, and the dreams she had nurtured were slipping away. But life, as it often does, had more challenges in store for her. Shortly after their breakup, Adejoke discovered that she was pregnant. The shock of the news hit her like a freight train. She hadn't planned for this, and she knew what it would mean for her and her family. The man who had fathered her child was no longer by her side, and she would have to face the consequences of their actions alone. The day she told her mother, Iya Alaje, on the phone was the darkest day of her life. The sound of shock and betrayal in her mother's voice was something she would never forget. Iya Alaje's voice was filled with disbelief as she asked, Adejoke, how could you do this? After everything we've done for you, how could you bring this shame upon us? Adejoke, her voice trembling, tried to explain. Her voice was filled with regret as she said, Mama, I didn't mean for this to happen. I loved him, and I thought we would be together. But now he's gone, and I have to deal with this on my own. But her mother's anger was too great, and the disappointment in her voice cut deep. Iya Alaje's voice was stern as she declared, You have destroyed everything we have built. How will we face the community? How will we ever recover from this? Adejoke had no answers. All she could do was face the reality of her situation and prepare for the difficult road ahead. As Adejoke's pregnancy progressed, she became increasingly isolated. The news of her condition spread quickly on campus, and the once warm and welcoming community turned cold. People whispered behind her back, and the judgmental stares followed her wherever she went. But despite the pain and loneliness, Adejoke found a strength within herself that she hadn't known existed. She continued with her studies, determined to finish her degree and provide a future for her child. She refused to let the shame and judgment of others define her. The final test of her strength came when she returned home to Ibadan for a brief visit. She knew that facing her family and community would be difficult, but she was ready. She walked into her family's home with her head held high, ready to accept whatever judgment they might pass. To her surprise, she found a measure of support. Her father, Baba Adewale, though disappointed, offered her a place to stay and promised to help her in any way he could. Her younger siblings, who had always looked up to her, welcomed her back with open arms, and even her mother, though still hurt, began to soften. She saw the strength and determination in her daughter's eyes, and she realized that Adejoke was not a failure. She was a fighter. Adejoke's story is one of love, betrayal, and the strength to overcome the impossible. She had been the pride of her family, but life had taken her down a path filled with challenges and heartbreak. Yet, even in the face of these obstacles, she refused to give up.
Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey with Adejoke. As part 1 draws to a close, we've witnessed a young woman who has faced unimaginable trials, yet has found the strength to keep moving forward. But her story is far from over. The challenges ahead will push her to her limits as she battles judgment, shame, and the weight of societal expectations, all while striving to carve out a future for herself and her child. Part 2 promises to delve deeper into Adejoke's world as she confronts the realities of motherhood and the difficult choices that lie ahead. The path she takes will not only shape her destiny, but also test the very core of her resolve. If Adejoke's story has captivated you, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you won't miss a moment of what's to come. The suspense is only beginning, and in just 1 week, the gripping continuation will unfold as Adejoke's journey toward redemption takes new, unexpected turns.